Order here, and we'll start this meeting with our normal roll call. Brittany Webb.
Here.
Dr. David Smith.
Here.
Daryl Gaines.
Here.
Michael Fitch.
Here.
And I'm David Weir. And so we can certify that we have a quorum present. All members are here and ready to work for the state of Texas and get our business done today. So our next item is approval of our minutes from the May 23rd meeting. Those minutes were sent to each member of this advisory board for review, and so I hope you had an opportunity to review those. Is there any deletions, additions that you saw in those minutes by any member?
No, sir.
Okay, with that being said, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Gaines motions to approve that. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, I'll go the other side of me, to the left, and we'll give that to Brittany as a second. Any discussion? All those in favor with approval of our minutes from May 23rd, signal it by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, like sign. Okay, our minutes are approved and passed. I'll sign off on those. Just checking the list, I didn't see anyone that signed in for any public comment. So we will move past item D, and I think we're ready for staff reports from the executive office.
Mr. Chairman, how are you doing? Brian Francis, your executive director.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The crown is heavy, but it feels good.
Good, good. It is shining this morning, brother.
It's shining. It started shining at about 1:34 in the morning. On Sunday morning when special things happen in the world in California. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to turn over the report to Mr. George Ferry, and Mary Winston will be providing most report for the executive office.
Good.
I'd like to start by saying I was asleep at 1:34 in the morning.
So was I.
Good morning. My name is George Ferry. I'm Director of the Compliance Division, and I'm going to give you part of the executive staff report this morning. I'll start with October 3rd. So October 3rd is the date that the program will go live here at TDLR. If you go to the DSHS website right now, and I'll let others get a little more detail about this, but you can no longer download applications and that kind of good stuff. It's part of the progress of turning the program over from DSHS to TDLR. Come October 3rd, you'll find all that stuff on the TDLR website. But let me go to the agenda here. Overview of TDLR's strategic plan. So I think we've spoken to you before about our strategic plan process. The fact that we go out and talk to the public. We take it very seriously, let's put it that way. It's not just, okay, let's give them what they want. We actually use it to plan for our future. And part of that is going out and doing the focus groups that we do, asking people 4 basic questions. What are we doing well, so we can give them more of that, hopefully. What can we do better? If you could be king or queen for a day, what one item would you change? And what's happening in the next 5 years that may impact your program? Not just technology like computers and stuff like that, but changes in practice, that sort of thing. So we gather all that information, put it together with a lot of other information that we put together, and produce a strategic plan, which you can find on our website right now. Under agency reports, you'll find our strategic plan. I would say it's short, it's a good read. It gives you a lot of information, really basic information about how TDLR operates and how and what we see happening in the future. If you do nothing else, read page 1. Page 1 has our vision, our mission, our core values, and our philosophy.
And I'm going to pop in real quickly. Mary Winston, attorney, OSC, talking about our strategic plan, our mission, our vision. In front of you, we have vision cards. So you have this smaller document than normal, but it's still a little voluminous. But our vision cards, and you will see our core values. It's kind of a one-pager, and it's not as big as an 8x11, but it's not as small as an index card because, as George says, our core values: accountability, customer service, innovation, integrity, open and free communication, respect, and teamwork. We also talk about our goals to improve efficiency, educate and empower our consumers, focus limited enforcement resources on complaints involving consumer harm, decreasing regulatory burden and effectively consolidating. And on the back, our title for our strategic plan, A Bold Direction for Tomorrow's Texas. And you'll find, number one, under our health professions, athletic trainers. October 3rd, October 3rd, October 3rd will be official, but this card is a summation of our strategic plan, and it's a summation of how TLR operates. So that's my interruption for the report. I'll give it back to George.
Thank you, ma'am. And I'll repeat October 3rd, and I'll keep saying October 3rd as I go through here. So, very important, internally, I even talk to my folks and tell them that our core values really should guide everything you do here at TDLR, and they do. When we make decisions, we look at our core values, but, okay, what decision would comport with our core value of respect or teamwork, customer service, accountability? So these are core values to TDLR and explain how we do things. And if you ever have any doubt about a decision, look at our core values. That's where that decision comes from. Now, another document we have to turn in every other year is our budget, our legislative appropriations request. I believe I've heard it referred to as a professional groveling document. Asking for money from the legislature for the next biennium, which would be 18 and 19. That will, of course, go through the legislative process, and we'll have hearings on the budgets, and all agencies have to justify their budgets and justify the items they ask for, additional items. But that will happen later during the legislative session, which starts in January. One other thing then, personnel updates, and we've got several, so I'm just going to do one. So I believe, if you all recall, harken back to when we first talked about the changes. The Compliance Division, as part of the growth, established a new section specifically for health professions. So you know this Compliance Division, we provide the subject matter expertise for the programs. So the separate section, health professions, I needed a manager for that section, and I hired Mr. Stephen Mills. Stephen's got 22, I believe, plus years at DSH as working with a number of the programs that are coming over to us. But Stephen's also hiring 2 more folks who he will introduce in his presentation. And we've got 3 more on the docket, so to speak, that we need to hire too to completely staff up that section. But that section will be providing the expertise to the other divisions too to help them out, licensing, enforcement, education, examination. We do work, one of our core values is teamwork, and we definitely do work as a team here. Even though we're functionally aligned, it doesn't mean that we don't work across all divisions to accomplish the goals here at TDLR. So I believe that that completes my portion of the executive staff report, unless Mr. Francis or Ms. Winston have anything else to add.
George, the only thing I'll add is in our legislative appropriations request, so we've got the transfer from the Department of State Health Services in 2 phases. Phase 1 is going to start on October 3rd, if you have not heard that. Phase 2 will start sometime next year around the same time. Phase 2, we did not receive the FTEs or the resources, the funding for that. So our first item in our exceptional items request is to get the 25 FTEs for that program. So we've got the FTEs for Phase 1, and we are making the argument in the pitch that, hey, they're already coming to us, and you told us they're going to come. Please give us the people and the resources. So you'll see some conversation about FTEs for Department of State Health Services programs, but that's towards the Phase 2 side of it. Mr. Chairman, I think that's all from executive. We're available to answer any questions if you have any.
I would like to speak on the behalf and have it at least on the record from our board, is that in the appropriations to request for reimbursement for board member travel and for official business. You know, our board members, I know Ms. Webb has made several trips over and to work on examination, and each and every one of our board members were going to be not only giving up time out of their offices and out of their jobs, but also assuming cost of travel in and back and forth to Austin. And so I want to speak very loudly in regards to that. You know, this was within the DSHS budget, and I hope that it can eventually be over in this budget as well.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Anything else? Okay. So moving on to Office of General Counsel.
Hello, this is Lynn Latome, Assistant General Counsel. There's not really much update to give to you that you don't already know. As you heard in the May 23rd meeting, the rules were adopted. I can repeat October 3rd, October 3rd, October 3rd. The rules were adopted by the commission. They are effective October 1st. And again, we plan on bringing that active regulation over on October 3rd. There are no active work groups at this time, but at the meetings where we did adopt rules, there were some assigned, short assigned rule work group projects that were contemplated, and the Office of General Counsel is very happy to assist in any of those efforts, should we be needed, or in any efforts. That's pretty much it from the Office of General Counsel.
Okay. Any questions for General Counsel? Okay, move to Compliance Division.
Good morning, members. I am Stephen Mills, your Health Professions Section Manager, and I've been with TDLR since June 15th. Very happy to be here. You have my written compliance report. I thought I would start with some personnel updates. So the team that will comprise the Health Professions Section is a total of 6 people. That includes me. The other 5 are program specialists. That's the classification title. And we have hired the first 2. They began September 1st. And I'd like to introduce those folks to you.
Sure.
First, we have Yvonne Feinleib at the back of the room. Yvonne Feinleib has been with DSHS for a number of years and has worked closely with programs such as orthotics and prosthetics, midwifery, and massage therapy. She's taken the lead on a number of other projects in our unit over the years. And we're very glad to have her on the team. The second person we've hired is Katie Bryce, and she is right here. Katie is the former executive director for the Speech, Pathology, and Audiology Board, as well as the Hearing Aid Dispensers Board. She's been with the department a few years and has done a great job in that role as executive director. The Speech, Pathology, and Audiology program is the largest of the 7 programs coming to us, about 16,000 license holders, and so we definitely are proud to have Katie's expertise in that area. 3 additional positions, we are beginning the interview process this week. Originally planned to have them start on the 1st, that may not happen on the 1st, and if it does not, then those folks will start, we hope, on the 15th. So that's our personnel update. In terms of public outreach, I think I saw several of you at the SWATA meeting in July. TDLR had good representation, both from the Compliance Division and the Education and Examination Division. And we appreciated everyone's hospitality. We shared a booth with the Department of State Health Services, got to meet a lot of folks. Some of them, for me anyway, was getting to see people that I hadn't seen in a long time. Some of y'all I know, and some of y'all I've just met. Just to refresh your memory or inform you, I actually received a small promotion at the Department of State Health Services in late '94, which began my work with the Athletic Trainers Program. That Mike Sally was the board chair at that time, and the program was going through a significant period of growth. When I began working with the program, there were about 870 athletic trainers, and I was the person that was heavily involved in processing licensing applications, scheduling for the exam. I did that for about 5 years, and during that time, we went from the one site in Houston to multiple sites across the state. So there was a lot of change going on at that time, and it was very exciting, and I know that that has continued. So I think the main thing that I wanted to talk to you about is our efforts here at TDLR related to consolidation and transition. So back in July, our Executive Director, Brian Francis, established the Health Professions Consolidation Team to coordinate the agency's consolidation efforts up through the transfer date. And he asked me to work with that team, and I've been doing so. The team has three major goals: to ensure that we're all on the same page in the same book across all of our organizational units and functions, to serve as a forum for brainstorming and planning and airing challenges and coming up with solutions to problems, and to combine the knowledge and experience of new TDLR staff members coming from DSHS with the expertise of TDLR's longtime team members. So those were the three goals for our group. We have a relatively large team. We have representation from each functional area, and I want to tell you about those areas. I know you've seen our org chart, but you may not have looked at it recently. So our team comprises representatives from IT, licensing, customer service, enforcement, education and examinations, compliance, field operations, general counsel, web and social media, strategic communications, financial services, Office of Innovation, and representatives from the Department of State Health Services. Each one of those areas has a role to play, some larger, some smaller, in the transition of these 7 programs. Early on, we identified our highest priorities for 10-3, which is our go-live date, which is that licensing must continue. Customer service must continue. There must be accurate web content and services available. And complaint intake must continue. There's a lot of other aspects of the programs that must continue. Those are identified as the most important for our go-live date to make sure that there's no reduction in services at that time. So towards that end, we're working on a lot of different projects and have been working on a lot of different projects, and I'd like to tell you about a few of those. We do have a formal IT project here at TDLR to implement the licensing database that's coming from DSHS. That database is called Versa Regulation. There's a suite of online services that are known as Versa Online. So that's the application that you use when you want to apply for a new license, or you want to renew your license, or you want to search for a license holder, that sort of thing. We get weekly updates from IT on that. Again, that's a formal IT project that is operating concurrently with the work of our team. In terms of that, of the implementation of Versa, we've been heavily involved in user acceptance testing. That's a process where you have some sample data and you actually go through and you test and make sure that you can perform all of your licensing transactions and functions. There's 3 rounds of that scheduled, and the first 2 rounds are completed. And those are held in multiple divisions based on the work of the division within the licensing system. User acceptance testing is a standard part of any IT project. That's been going quite well. As part of that, testing of Versa Online financial transactions through the Texas Online Portal. So in order for us to accept online license renewals, we have to have successful testing through the Comptroller's Texas Online Payment Engine. All state agencies have to direct their online payments through that engine. And we've had our first round of successful testing, and the next round should be happening within the next week or so. That's very important to have 2 rounds of successful testing, otherwise we can't go live with the online functions on 10-3. We did a postcard mail out to all licensees transferring within this. Oh, good, you've already received yours. Great. That has just happened within the last week or so. Put out about 30,000 of those postcards. We've been particularly busy with new and revised web content about the transition and about the programs. And I think if you haven't looked at the website in the last few days, there's a number of frequently asked questions that have been added, both that relate to all of the programs, so more general FAQs, and then a number of FAQs that relate specifically to the athletic trainer program and mostly about the exam. In terms of the new rules that Lynn mentioned, we also have recently posted a document that is sort of a crosswalk. It shows you a comparison between the former DSHS rules and the TDLR rules to sort of let you know what's the same and what changed. Very little did change with the new rules, but there's a few minor changes. Customer service training modules, our customer service team has been working really hard to have formal training available and implemented so that the folks answering the phone can answer the questions. Thank you. Licensing staff training, that's been ongoing for a couple of months now. TDLR has been sending staff to DSHS. It was 2 afternoons a week, I believe, and lately it's been every day. So our own staff are sitting with DSHS staff, seeing how they process the paper applications, how they evaluate them, how they then transfer that information through data entry into the Versa regulation system. And that's going to be key so that we can move forward then and do that ourselves on 10-3. As part of that, revision of application forms has been a big project. There's actually quite a few forms associated with each of these licensing programs. And so when you multiply that by 7, it just gets bigger and bigger. The forms, of course, had to be revised to correct the name of the agency and the mailing address and the contact info. But also TDLR has a standard way of presenting and collecting information on license application forms that creates efficiencies while folks are doing data entry. So all of that is sort of being revamped at this time, and the hope is to post the revised application forms early next week. We've been looking at procedures for military applicants, licensing of military members, veterans, and their spouses. Of course, there is state law that sets out some very specific requirements for that. TDLR had that implemented for their existing programs. DSHS did. We found that there were perhaps a couple of differing approaches there, so all that's being integrated right now. Of course, hiring of staff in a number of areas, not just compliance, but also customer service and licensing. And a number of those folks have been hired from the Department of State Health Services. Examination administration for athletic trainers and hearing aid dispensers. So those are the 2 programs that have examinations that were directly administered and developed through the Department of State Health Services. The other programs strictly use a national examination. So there's been a lot of activities associated with that, as you know, Brittany, and probably some of the others do also. Medical records privacy has been a little bit of a new issue for TDLR, and the transferring programs will typically receive confidential, protected medical information through the submission of consumer complaints, the investigation of consumer complaints, and through the limited inspection functions that exist in one program. So it's important that we be familiar with both state and federal law regarding the protection of medical information. And our general counsel's been working real hard on that. We had a training session last week, and more training is scheduled. DSHS, as George mentioned, is going through a wind down right now as we're going through a ramp up. So last night at 10 o'clock, they did take down their version of Versa Online. And when I checked this morning, all of their paper applications have been removed also. And then what they're doing this week is everything that was received, they're going to be doing the processing on that, and the hope is to have everything processed with no backlog by Friday. Now, it's always possible that there will be a backlog, but we anticipate that it will be small, which is why they schedule the shutdown a week ahead of the processing deadline. When they have their processing deadline on Friday, then their version of Versa regulation will be available to their staff as view only. No one will be making any changes after Friday, and that's to ensure integrity of the data. There'll be a downtime of 6 working days where neither agency will be processing license applications. So their IT staff needs about half of that time to ensure that the data is appropriately ready to be sent to us, and then we need about the other half of that time to test it on our end and make sure we're ready to go. Let's see, the last thing that we've been working on that I've mentioned to you today is the transfer of records and the merging of those records from the Department of State Health Services into the TDLR records retention schedule. You know, the athletic trainer program has been around since '71, and what that means, one of the things that means is that a large number of records have been accumulated over the years at the Department of State Health Services. And the Department of State Health Services had a very different retention schedule in terms of the length of time that it thought was necessary to maintain records before they were destroyed. And so we are going to be integrating into the TDLR records retention schedule as appropriate. And we will be involved with, and DSHS is working on this right now, boxing and inventorying a large number of records for transfer to us on 10/3 or shortly thereafter. So we're confident that all of the major goals that are set for the 10/3 transfer will be met successfully. Of course, there will likely be some issues that have to be ironed out, and we will do so. One of the major things that we're working on right now is identifying gaps and challenges and proposing solutions for those. But I would tell you that our team is working very well together. We also have a collaborative working relationship with DSHS. Our team meets every week, and DSHS joins us, and so we're all on the same page as far as the sharing of information. And if we have questions about things that are going on in their agency or vice versa, we have an opportunity to get all that out in the open right then and get things resolved. We're reporting our activities to both TDLR staff and to DSHS through weekly updates. Very important to keep those lines of communication open. And then at the time of consolidation, we do plan weekly calls, outreach calls, and that will be primarily, I think, compliance staff, me and Katie and George. We'll be reaching out to advisory board chairs and to association representatives on a weekly basis to share information on how the transition is going and to hear about any concerns that may be coming to y'all. So with that, I would conclude my Compliance Division staff report. Do you have any questions? I know that was a lot.
Stephen, I just looked at the postcard, and it says continuing education requirements for your license have not changed. I thought we had agreed that all of continuing education could be done online now.
That is correct, and that would be a change. The postcard was generic, and that actually is intended to answer the question that we're getting a lot, is it still X number of hours? Is it still approved by the same association? But you're absolutely right. In that regard, it did change.
And has that been communicated to the athletic trainers?
It was communicated this summer, so, I mean, and through just our normal conversations of this board, you know, so.
We'll make sure that our FAQ specifically to the
Address that.
athletic trainers addresses that as well.
Yeah, we have an FAQ up on that right now, but I think it basically says it hasn't changed. That's actually more of a positive change, and so we've been sort of geared at answering the questions at what people saw as perhaps more negative changes. But that's a very good point, and I think we will definitely address that.
And actually, Stephen, if I might add a contribution, Lynn Latome, Assistant General Counsel, I believe in the crosswalk posting that you mentioned earlier, when you look at the headings for each program, that is probably, athletic trainers, I believe, is the first program listed, and that's pretty much the highlight from the changes in that crosswalk documentation that is posted on our website at this time. So that is, there is a public delineation of that major change.
Perfect, thank you.
I would also just like to, from a board standpoint, thank you and for attending the district meeting in Arlington, and I think that was very good, and I appreciate each and every area member, and Mr. Francis as well, and Mr. Koontz as being as he was going out. I thought it was a great presentation. We reached probably, conservatively 300 to 400 people in 2 different sessions. And I thought those were well done, you know, well attended and great information. And, you know, while we probably won't have that same forum yearly, probably won't need that type of forum yearly, but I do encourage TDLR to continue to be a face there at that meeting, and to, you know, plan on attending, at least sending a member or 2 of staff just to be there to work the booth and that sort of thing, because I think it's a great presence. If there's one meeting that should be attended, it should be that one. So I would just like to put that plug in. When you mention the retention of records, is TDLR's retention of records policy, you know, vastly different from DSHS as far as in how long they were holding information, Stephen?
It depends on which type of records you're talking about. So the records retention schedule for both agencies categorizes records. So, for example, licensing files pending, licensing files disapproved or deleted or voided, licensing files that resulted in the issuance of a license, and many more categories. And for each of those categories, then there's a length of time assigned to that category.
Right.
For how long it's retained, typically on site, how long it's retained in storage before destruction. So it depends on which type of record you're talking about.
Yeah, I guess my biggest concern, and I'm a little bit, I guess, concerned probably more of our old Method A forms that come in that have, you know, approval of hours, of internship hours. You know, many of those signatures, I mean, those were done, and, you know, if a person let a license lapse and they're going back and having to reapply, some of those bits of data, you know, are really, really important to be able to get back and to be re-reviewed. Because as that file is re-evaluated to be reissued and meet the qualifications to whether it's reset for the exam or whatever the requirements are, you know, I'm just thinking those are some very important pieces of information to be able to have. You know, others, as far as, you know, transcripts and things, you know, those can typically be replaced in many cases from institutions that they went to. But some of those, again, some of those hours, approval hours, you know, some of the individuals have passed on that have approved some of those hours. So going back and trying to reproduce some of those pieces of paper are impossible. So that, I just throw that out there for
Okay.
consideration as records come over. And truthfully, even being a DSHS advisory board chair there, I'm not completely certain that, I know I don't know the retention of records, but that just struck me as you presented that, just struck me as being a potential issue for a license holder or a former license holder that wants to reapply.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, members?
I just want to say thank y'all for your efforts in this postcard. You know, many of us just get bills in the mail, but this was like, all right, somebody really wants to get, you know. And so when I got this, it made my heart warm because this is just another step of y'all showing how this is going to be okay. Because, you know, some of our members are still thinking this isn't going to be okay. And so this is just another effort of y'all extending the olive branch out. And I appreciate that and all of y'all's hard work and coming to SWATA and doing what y'all did at SWATA, everybody. And so I just want to say thank you. Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome, and thank you for saying that. And, you know, I'm confident that this transfer is going to be okay.
Oh, it is
And
gonna
I
be.
think it's going to be more than okay. I think it's going to be wildly successful. I think a year or two down the road, our conversations around this topic will be very different.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, the ramping down over at DSHS I know is happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll just move on to Education and Examination Division if there's no other questions.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Stephen
Thank y'all.
and Katie.
Good job, Steve.
Good morning, Chairman, Weir, Advisory Board members. My name is Rebecca Artemus, and I'm with TDLR's Education and Examination Division, and I will be delivering our report today. I just wanted to point out, just because it's fresh from the request that you had, Chairman Weir, that for all of our subject matter experts that participate with our third-party vendor, PSI, they are reimbursed mileage. Their lodging is taken care of and meals are provided, but we still do understand that it's still taking time out of their day. But, you know, just to kind of have that out there, that when they do participate in the exam review committee meetings, that PSI does take care of them.
So those people are covered and the board is not. Well, that's good. I'm happy someone is.
We just wanted to throw that out there.
Rebecca, move on, move
Well,
on.
now we're slightly bitter, but go ahead.
Yeah, not get any better.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm happy for someone.
And with that being said, the exam review committee has been working very hard, diligently, to make sure that we have exams ready. We are excited to say that November 1 is the go-live date for the written examination. So once the eligibility notices go out to the candidates, and they will, I know that there are a lot of fears out there. We've put some FAQs on our page to kind of help everybody out. So if they will just go on to the TDLR website, to the frequently asked questions page, we've got a whole section there on practical examination, written examination, and the CEs. But what they'll do is they'll start being able to book appointments at any one of the PSI written examination facilities. And it's a computer-based exam. They'll go in, they'll take their exam, and have their results that day. Walking out the door, they will know whether they are successful or not in passing the written examination. Also, for the practical examination, we are going to keep them at the 4 sites that are currently holding them, and that date is the 4th of December with a deadline date of the 21st of November. That'll give some time for the transition to come over, and everybody who's kind of, you know, in between right now, they will know where they are as far as being eligible, and they also will be able to contact PSI to schedule their appointments. But this group of subject matter experts have been, you know, nothing short of amazing getting this. They've been working very, very hard at making sure that we have 2 quality examinations, written and practical. I've been absolutely impressed. I was nervous because it's new, but meeting with this group has opened my eyes to a whole new industry, and I just want to publicly say thank you to that group. There had been some questions about reporting of statistics, and those are things that we will be working on for you. I know, Red, you had asked you wanted some stats on the pass rate as far as whether they were in a BOC program or any, all the different paths. So we'll work on getting that data. Chairman Ware, you had asked about by institution, what the pass rate was by institution. So those are things that we are working on for you. We'll probably need to meet with you guys just privately on the side and just kind of discuss specifics as far as what you would like in these reports, but know that we are working on it. Another thing that we're meeting with Michael and Brittany today is in the education work group, we're going to look at just not adding new items, but making sure that we have the right citation to go with the items for the jurisprudence exam today. Just cleaning it up, making sure, replacing everything that says DSHS to TDLR, and make sure we have the right rules with them.
Great.
And let's see, I'm trying to think of, another thing we'd like to do is also publicly thank Stuart Myrick for all of his help. He is, any type of question we've had, or if we needed to go over and visit and look at some of the data that he collects, he's been more than willing to work. He's been at our exam review meetings, and we just want to also tell him thank you. And that concludes my report. Do you all have any questions for us?
Rebecca, if I can add something. I think earlier you'd said something that would put you in hot water with all the other boards that you work with. And I think your statement was that this is the best subject matter expert group. And I just, since you did the thing about the budget and the travel, I just felt like I should get her in hot water with cosmetology, barber, and all the other programs, that she indicated that this is the most knowledgeable group that she's worked with.
The athletic training advisor, or subject matter experts have become one of my favorite groups, because when we ask them to write items, they write the items. There's not, we've just had a really good time with this group. They've made this transition. Thanks, Brian.
Well, Mr. Francis, I just wanted, maybe she goes downtown to speak on behalf of appropriations for that, because you haven't been able to get it done. So
I've only been on the job 19 days.
Thank you guys so very much.
Any other questions for this area? Okay, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along, we're up to the Enforcement Division.
Good morning. My
Morning.
name is Ken Sharp. I'm with the Enforcement Division. Some of you know me from past. We don't, well, I should tell you, I've got two goals here today. One of them, of course, is to bring you up to speed as far as what we've been doing since the last time we met. And the other is to avoid saying that date. So we'll see how successful I am on both. You can tell me later. Of course, we haven't started anything yet, so we don't have any enforcement statistics or anything like that to offer you at this time. But we can tell you about the last meeting. You had mentioned something, some interest in whether fingerprint background investigations were required by the Executive Council of Physical Training and Occupational Therapy examiners rather. And they do, they're not doing national background checks. Chris Russey checked with them, and they don't do that. And when we bring them in, of course, we're going to do what's required, and we'll be consistent with what we do now. So I think we'll be okay there. On August the 30th, we had the privilege and the pleasure to have a training session presented by Mr. Gaines, and I call him Mr. because I'm wearing a tie today. It was very informative. It was at times entertaining, and we all appreciated it. We learned a whole lot from it, and so I think we'll all be in a better position to not only to understand the program, but also to work with it as it becomes operational on some date in the future. And finally, we're having a meeting later this week, I believe, on the penalty matrix for enforcement of the athletic trainer program rules and statutes. And so we'll have that, and we should have that available to you for your consideration the next time you meet. That's all I have. Do you have any questions for me?
Anybody, any questions, comments? Okay, we won't attack Brian on this item, we'll just move on to the next, so.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
We did in our meeting.
Did? Okay, perfect, I didn't win.
We lit Brian up a little bit.
Well, that's true, but I tried to forget about that because I work for him.
We understand.
I love this place.
Okay, Licensing Division.
Sure, no problem. Good morning. Leonard Rivas with the licensing division. I think Stephen Mills pretty much covered most of our report. The only thing I can add is we did hire 4 additional staff members. One started August 15th, the other 3 will start October 3rd, and those 3 are from DSHS.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
I did have one question. Will there be a specific person assigned to athletic training, or will they work for all the different?
Currently, when it comes over, April Nahad is the one that currently works on athletic trainers at the Department of State Health Services. She will continue to work on that when the program first comes over, and then we'll integrate the other 3 to learn how to process athletic trainer applications.
Thank you.
Anything else? And I guess I'd throw this open, and Brian, I probably really need your direction here, is that as we move forward, as you and I have shared, in the past, it's really common, and it's our goal, I think, as a board, that we don't have to do much of the board business other than when we come here.
Right.
But who is the best point person when we get questions, or do we need to go through a workflow chart? If so, I need you to produce this to me, or we'll work together to produce it. Is there one individual for problem solving that when we are contacted by licensees with issues, whether it's, I've applied for a temporary license, I haven't had it, my application's there, and most of the time, the individual, the applicant is delinquent in something or whatever, but, it's always someone else's fault, typically. Is there a person that you would like for us to channel all those things to, and then allow it to filter out, basically a person to forward the email to, forward the call to, that sort of thing?
Couple things. Number one, we'll have an email set up, customer service athletic trainers. And that email is responded to, it's looked at by compliance, licensing, customer service, so they can identify where it needs to be routed. So we're checking that, and we have it for every program.
Okay.
That's going to be the best place. But Stephen Mills will be
Okay.
your person
Okay.
until such time that he, and this may
Delegates
accelerate
that?
that.
Okay.
But until such time he fills a couple of the positions that he has vacant. Stephen, right now, is
Perfect.
going to be on top of that.
Okay.
The group that Stephen's heading up, looking at the consolidation, their meetings, their weekly meetings will not stop on October 3rd. They're going to continue on through the year, because we're going to be monitoring and really checking the pulse of that consolidation. But Stephen's going to be the point person.
Okay, well, thank you. I mean, I think our profession, and Stephen can speak, I think, on behalf of this, is that many of us are faces within the organization, and we do interact with these people, multiple times through the year. And so they remember our names.
Oh, yeah.
And, and that sort of thing, and they hit us up first. Sometimes they think we can make something happen faster, so they can ring that bell, or sometimes they just don't know who to go to. And I think as this comes over, while it's going to be such, I think, a better situation for customer service, it's a little daunting.
Trying to figure out how to navigate.
Exactly, of where people need to go, because they may be able to look at it and not completely understand. Exactly, so thank you for that.
What's the specific email? If I have a licensee on the 4th of October, say, hey, so what email do I give them?
I'm going to look it up while we're talking.
I think it's
It's
cs.athletictrainers.tdlr.state.gov, CS stands for customer service, .athletic. Is it, no, the dot trainers?
Athletic trainer?
Athletic trainer together?
No, there's a dot between athletic and trainer. Athletic dot trainer at.
And it's trainers.
Trainers?
At TDLR?
Yes, sir.
.texas.gov. Thank you, Dee Dee.
Okay, thank you for that. Anything else? Okay, I don't know if there's anyone to give an update from DSHS. I thought Stuart was going to be here, but I don't know if there's somebody else designated to do that.
No one's designated to do it, but I will tell you that with Stephen and his team meeting weekly with all the folks from Department of State Health Services, that presentation that he provides really embodies it. And the most recent thing is just shutting off the activity that's going there in the transition.
Okay. So if I were to get, because I will probably be the one, if I get calls this week or emails this week, I can't renew, I'm worried about trying to take my test, I can't see anything, I haven't heard anything back from people. Basically, we need to wait at this point in time now for responses to be after October 3rd, correct?
That is correct, Taylor, but I think it's important to remember that DSH has extended licenses that expired August, September, and October.
Right.
So there should not be a demand for renewal right now.
Right. Okay. Well,
And that's very
I am not saying there's any fault at any agency. It's that the individuals, the moment they don't get a response, then it's the next step. And that's me, a phone call to me or an email to me, so.
In terms of renewal, I just want you to know there should
Perfect.
not be a demand for renewal service.
It's probably going to be somebody worried about trying to take the test.
The examination, we have FAQs posted that tell people exactly what's gonna happen, which is on the 3rd, after we get the data, when that will start being processed, and they'll hear from PSI, our exam vendor, on how to set that up.
Perfect. Okay.
And we've already had a number of questions, and have been fielding those.
Good.
We'll probably tell them.
Good. Okay. Anything else here?
Mr. Chairman, George
Sir.
Farrell again. Just wanted to point out, if you didn't write down the email address, or you can't read your writing when you get back to the office, the contact information is on the homepage for athletic trainers down the right side. There's a heading, Contact Information.
Okay.
And it does have the CS Athletic Trainers email address. It also has some phone numbers.
Okay.
And the banner at the top of our basic homepage has an item called Contact TDLR, and you can find the same information there too. So, however, if you don't know the or our website address to begin with, that may not help you much. But nevertheless, the address for our homepage is tdlr.texas.gov, and you can find all that information there.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Items, recommendations for agenda items for our next board meeting. Anyone have anything at this point?
Mr. Chairman, Brian Francis, University Deputy Executive Director, okay. Brian Francis of TDLR. One thing to keep in mind, and we talked about this as we've been hanging out for the last couple of months, about 11 months or so, is that as the program, when it comes over, is when we'll start looking at any of the standard of care provisions that the board wants to address. So that may be something that you want to start talking about if there are things that you want to do or maybe change or consider discussing. I will let you know that it's 13 days, 21 hours, 5 minutes, and 31 seconds until the transition takes place. I know that was on your mind.
I was kind of looking for the countdown clock in this room.
We have a countdown clock on our
Oh, in your
internal-
office. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, well, thank you. No, I think there are things and, and guidance from your areas as to, rules versus law, as to what the power that this board, has in discussions on those things. So absolutely, I think at any point in time, we can place that on that agenda to, at least have dialogue on this end as to those things. So, yes, sir, I agree. So as far as you guys go, where, when, and what time, I know where, but what date are we looking at as a potential need to get together again?
Tony, do we have a date?
We don't have it.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I think we need to get some breath between the transition, so maybe.
Are you kidding me? You're not breath? Okay, that's fine.
So maybe mid-November, early December time period, and we'll have Delia send out
Okay.
a date.
All right. Any other items for discussion? I know you all are disappointed because, you didn't get to stay here till 4 or 5 o'clock this afternoon in this particular board, but, we're efficient and effective.
We'll
I
have a
think.
few that'll make up that time for you, don't worry.
So, anyway, I guess if there's nothing else, gentlemen, ladies?
Mr. Chairman, before we end, I don't know if we mentioned or not, but October 3rd is our go-live day.
We have that, and Mr.
I was gonna
Francis,
ask.
and Mr.
Yeah.
Francis could also give us an update on the time left.
Well, it's 13 hours, 13 days, 21 hours, 3 minutes, and now 34 seconds, so.
Thank you. We stand adjourned.